Hello once again, all my fellow patriots and you filthy leftist stalkers out there. You're listening to Angela's Soapbox. I'm Angela Box. There's, y'all, I don't even know where to start today. We have several topics that we're going to get to. And we're talking to, in the second segment, to Brandon Waltens of Texas Scorecard, because he's going to help to break down the Ted Cruz, Colin, Allred debate from the night before. But there's so much. But I want to give the seed killing plastic straw, just jump right in today because, again, there's a lot going on, as usual. I'm giving it to Martha Raddatz of ABC News because this heifer she's doing too much. And let's talk about why. So, Martha Raddatz of ABC News. So here's let me set this up. We have news organizations now that should have their FCC licenses basically suspended and at the very least suspended, because ABC News, we know there's a whistleblower there that said that ABC News was giving all the debate questions to Senator Kneepads and, all the things they did to help her out, to fluff her up, and maybe she had an earpiece, whatever. And then, obviously CBS News last week was caught editing Senator Kneepads' interview, that basically, when she was babbling on incoherently like a moron, they cobbled it together to make her sound, functioning. Now we have a situation, and I haven't even gotten to the CBS News that they did to Mike Johnson, and Mike Johnson brought receipts. We're going to get to that. But ABC News, a couple of days ago, J.D. Vance goes on, I think it was whatever the Sunday show is on ABC News, Martha Raddatz, who is a deep state loser like all of them. J.D. Vance was talking to Martha Raddatz about the Aurora, Colorado situation where we've got Venezuelan gangs that are basically taking over entire apartment complexes. And it's happened all throughout the city. And I've mentioned before that Aurora, Colorado, my late grandmother lived there. I have a sister who lives in Denver. So, I don't know, because my sister's kind of like, she's Gen Z and I love her very much, but she's on the fence with some things, but I need to talk to her about this. I'm going to be like, sis, are you down for this? What's up with that? But anyway, the point is that I do have a little bit of a connection with Aurora. It is a suburb of Denver. It's a very nice suburb. It used to be a very nice suburb of Denver. And now it's just been taken over by the third world, just like every other American community is, where they ship these illegal aliens to try and, great replacement theory, the population into submission. And that's what's going on. So Martha Raddatz had J.D. Vance on her show last week. J.D. Vance just completely dismantled everything this dumb woman was saying. But Martha Raddatz she said this. She said that, it's only a handful of, where is this? Let me make sure I'm getting this correctly. It's only a handful of apartment complexes that are being taken over by Venezuelan gangs. And J.D. Vance is like, do you hear yourself, Martha? Only a handful are being taken over? What are you even saying here? So if it's more, if it's not 100, if it's not the entire city being taken over, are we supposed to be okay with Venezuelan migrant gangs taking over entire apartment complexes? So everyone was just, reaming this woman because they talk about the Overton window being shifted. And the Overton window essentially is the things that we accept as acceptable in society. So, a few years ago, this idea that men can become women and transgenderism, this was completely anathema and bonkers to most people. True gender dysphoria is exceedingly rare, and it doesn't happen every day. And now all of a sudden we've got this massive uptick in kids that are, identifying as a different gender. It's like the Overton window has shifted. The Overton window has also shifted when it comes to child predatory activities. These groomers that we see that are, basically trying to get children to go into this lifestyle, this idea that we're going to put pornography in front of students because it's LGBTQ and it's all about pride and blah, 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 blah. So again, the Overton window on that has shifted, and the Overton window on illegal immigration has shifted to the point where it's banana sandwiches. And JD Vance was like, Martha, do you hear yourself? Quote, only a handful of apartment complexes are being taken over by Trent Agua? Like, what are you even saying here? So everyone's just been coming for ABC News, rightfully so. Same with CBS News. So the management company has now responded to this. The management company of these apartment complexes that have been taken over, they're out of New York City. And basically on X the other day, they put this post out and they showed receipts of one of their building managers that had been beaten up by these violent Venezuelan gangs. These Venezuelan gangs are going door to door, extorting people. Like these poor people, these poor tenants, a lot of whom are lower income, don't have the ability to move, don't have the ability to like pack up and leave. They've paid rent, but they paid rent to these gang members. And again, these apartment manager complex people are getting beaten up. And, I live in an apartment right now, and I love my apartment manager. And I actually really like the management company that took over this building because they kind of, cleaned a lot of it up. But, I can't even imagine someone coming and extorting the people at my building or beating up my apartment manager. That's horrifying because this person is someone that people see every day. It's horrifying. Anyway, so the management basically said after some time, we noticed a rise in crime and tenant complaints. The most alarming moment occurred when our local CBZ representative was attacked at the end of 2023. He had gone into it to inspect a recently vacated 3-bedroom apartment, only to find a group of men already inside, illegal aliens. When he refused their $500 bribe to overlook the situation, they brutally attacked him. And this has now been escalating over and over and over again. The Biden administration, the Harris administration, has aided and abetted these illegal immigrants to come in and to take hostage these apartment complexes. And I guarantee you it's not just happening in Aurora, Colorado, but this is a place that Biden has sent a lot of these people. So this is kind of where we're seeing this microcosm of this. But I guarantee it's happening all over the country. And you know what's even more disgusting is how dumb the media has made people, how stupid the mainstream media, the people who watch MSNBC or ABC News or CBS News, where they're watching these edited, cobbled together interviews to try and make Senator Kneepads look functioning. These people they've been dumbed down. James O'Keefe, a couple weeks ago, I didn't even get to talk about this. James O'Keefe had a video where he's got one of his undercover people, which you would think at this point these dummies would understand that these Bumble dates that they're going on are basically setups. They don't, whatever. So, this undercover journalist basically got this MSNBC producer to admit that they are purposely dumbing down their audience and they're not being told the truth. And their people are being propagandized and radicalized. And when you see this uptick of people trying to kill President Trump, I wonder why that could possibly be. It's the deep state doing it. It's the intelligence clowns that are running these networks. And then obviously it's people in these networks that are pushing this absolute garbage, actual misinformation. So check this out before we get to the break. There was a poll that was just done about people's understandings of how many illegal immigrants have come into this country thanks to Biden and Harris. And oh, by the way, the Overton window again shifting to say that, it's fine. 10 million illegals, as Bill Clinton says, well, we don't have enough people to replace the native-born population, so we need more illegal aliens, nothing to see here. By the way, before I get to this I'm going to save it to the next segment because this is so delicious how they're trying to get rid of Senator Kneepads. But this is basically the question that was asked. How much illegal immigration has gone on under the Biden-Harris administration? And Charlemagne the God is, gaslighting everyone yesterday with Kamala Harris on the show. Senator Kneepads is like, I wasn't the borders are. This is a lie. It's like, oh my God, what? Like, I was on Isaiah's show last night, and it's like the memory holding that people are doing in real time is just astonishing to watch. We were talking about the hurricane response and how literally 2 weeks ago, Mayorkas is like, we're out of money. We gave all these money to illegals. It's literally on FEMA's website, but that has like been memory hold. And of course, the narrative is that's misinformation. That's a lie. It's like it's crazy, and people just buy it. They buy it. Even the producers are like, oh no, Trump gave all the money to migrants. It's like, oh my God, like it's literally on FEMA's website. But anyway, I digress. So new polling. Results on immigration attitudes from our recent survey. This is from Skeptic Research Center team. So basically, on average, very liberal and liberal Americans guess that about 4 million illegal aliens entered the country. The actual number is around 10 million. Now, conservative to very conservative are the ones who got it most correct, which is not surprising, since we're the ones who are actually getting correct information and not being brainwashed by a bunch of incels on MSNBC. The actual number is 10 million, while conservatives and very conservatives said 9 million. So we're not getting it completely right. Now, I think that number is much higher. I think it's probably more like 15 million. They want to replace us. They want to create chaos. They want to create mini Aurora Colorados throughout the entire country to completely destabilize this country. Like, it's so obvious at this point. All right, next segment, we're going to have Brandon Waltens of Texas Scorecard. Love him. I'm looking forward to talking to him about the debate last night and anything else he wants to talk about. And we'll pick all this up in the third segment. You're listening to Angela's Soapbox. I will be right back. Welcome back to Angela's Soapbox. I am really excited to have my old friend, Brandon Waltens. I've talked to Brandon before. He's with Texas Scorecard, which is, by the way, the preeminent website if you want all things Texas and all things based Texas. Go to Texas Scorecard. Brandon is a great contributor there. So welcome to the show, Brandon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Angela.
Well, I'm super excited to talk to you about this debate from last night. So I got a few texts from people saying, oh, are you watching the debate? And I was like, what debate? And they're like, the Cruz Allred debate. And I'm like, I didn't even hear about this thing. They tried to keep it so under the radar that I don't think a lot of people got to see it. So what's your take on this show last night? Because on Twitter or on X, everyone was like, Cruz just dominated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, yeah, if you missed it, I guess people can go back and watch it. But that was the first time that Cruz and Colin Allred have met. Probably going to be the last time before the election. So this was the one debate they had set up at WFAA up in Dallas, news station there hosted it. And for an hour, they talked about a lot of the major issues that you would expect, right? Of course, the moderators start out with a question about abortion. Colin Allred has been right alongside the radical left on this issue, but tries to paint Ted Cruz into a corner, blaming him for Texas's pro-life laws. Never mind the fact, by the way, that those are passed by the state legislature, so maybe he needs a little bit of a civics lesson there. But they also talked about the border, something that Colin Allred has been right in line with Kamala Harris on. But I think the biggest difference and the biggest moment for Ted Cruz in the debate last night was talking about the issue of protecting girls' sports. This is an issue that Colin Allred has, I think, had just about every issue on. And even last night when he was answering a question, was asked multiple times to clarify his position. Is he in favor of having boys compete in girls' sports? Is he not? He couldn't really give an answer, right? I mean, he'd say, well, Ted Cruz is accusing me of, these crazy things. I don't agree with that. And then in the next breath say, but we can't discriminate, meaning, explaining his vote. He's voted multiple times against efforts in Congress to codify this into law, to protect girls in schools. And so, I think that was probably the biggest issue where you saw a lot of daylight on it. And it really exposed Colin Allred, I think, for what we know him to be from watching his record. But I think a lot of people who maybe haven't heard of him, a lot of people have asked me. They've said people who don't follow politics that much. All of a sudden, over the last couple of months, they've seen Colin Allred commercials pop up on TV, and they're asking, who is this guy? And the answer is that he's just, he's the next Democrat that they got to step up and be their candidate, but he's just another run of the mill Democrat who's voted alongside Nancy Pelosi, who's right alongside Kamala Harris. There's no difference there.
Yeah, and I had no clue who this guy was, and I mean, I live and breathe politics, so he's just like an NPC. Like at this point, they just put. I will say this, in 2018 when we had the straight ticket voting, and that brought us, of course, Lena Hidalgo here in Houston. Thank you so much for all those Beto sticker people that ruined Houston. But I will say, Beto O'Rourke is such a clown, is such a caricature of a soy boy. Like, at least Colin Allred kind of presents a little more of a masculine figure, which I guess that's what Democrats were trying to go for this time. But because he's in the Democrat Party, he's in a real pickle because their policies are so insane that it reminds me of Sean Theory, who I got to see speak at a Citizens Defending Freedom event the other day. Mm-hmm. And for those of people that don't know, Sean Theory was a Texas state rep. She was a Democrat. She voted with the Republicans against the gender affirming care bill. And so she basically got primaried and got kicked out of her party, and she became a Republican. And she's like, I had all these Democrats come to me of my own party. They're like, listen, Sean, we agree with you, but just hold your nose and do this. And she's like, no, I'm not going to do this. And it's just so frustrating to me because I personally have talked to a state rep who I said, why don't you just stand up and say, no, we're not going to do this. Like, we're going to stop this right now. And he's like, I would get primaried. And that's what happened to Sean. And I think that's what Colin Allred is trying to thread that needle. And there's just really, you can't do it and be a normal person.
Well, how do you sell something? I mean, this is an issue that I think if you poll, actual voters, so not the people in DC, not the people in Austin, but actual voters, I'm pretty sure this is an issue that Republicans and Democrat voters actually pretty well agree on.
Right.
It's only the radical fringes of the Democrat base that want to see this all this gender ideology that we've seen come out to play. Mm-hmm. And that has put a lot of these people in an interesting position. I mean, I don't know what Colin Allred personally believes on this. Like I said, he's been all over the map. I do know how he's voted, and he's voted against protecting girls in women's sports. But it is interesting to think back to 2018, though, because you're right. On one hand, Colin Allred, they've sort of been playing up. I mean, just about every commercial that he has plays up the fact, right? He's a football player, captain of the football team, that sort of thing, which has been an interesting. Yeah, it's been an interesting switch this cycle. They kind of tried that with Tim Walz, but I don't think it's worked. I don't think it's really worked. We have the effeminate, assistant coach. Doing the spirit fingers all over the.
I note on that, no straight man does jazz hands.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Zero.
Yeah, it didn't really play, but at least you could see they attempted that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, though, 2018, we do know, right? I mean, the fact of the matter is we can say what we want about Beto O'Rourke. That ended up being a pretty close election, right? Yes. It was only a point or two.
Yeah.
But then I think, if you're comparing Beto O'Rourke and Colin Allred, Beto O'Rourke at least had that was something interesting. I mean, he was grabbing media attention on his own. I mean, it was everybody, people were sharing, oh, he's, on a skateboard at Whataburger, that sort of thing. And
he's jumping
for whatever that's worth, right? And you don't get that from Colin Allred.
Right. Well, see, I mean, this is again how little I even know, and I'm in politics. Where's his district?
Yeah, he's actually in Dallas, so the Dallas area.
Okay, so basically, he got a home field advantage with this reporter. What were the moderators like? Were they fair? Were they stupid? Like, what was your take?
I mean, I think they were about as fair as you can expect from the legacy media these days, which is to say that I think Colin Allred had a little bit of an advantage. You could almost, sort of tell, and maybe this was me just reading too much into it, but you could almost feel when they felt that Colin Allred was going a little bit astray and wanted to steer the conversation back. And but of course, a lot of the tells with these things is, what did they ask about? Like I mentioned, they talk about abortion first, which is an issue that Ted Cruz has almost nothing to do with in Texas, and but they lead with that issue. They asked, of course, spent 5 or 10 minutes on talking about January 6th, right? The day democracy almost died, right? Maybe they go on that, right? And you only have an hour. So I think that's, if you want to talk about any bias, right, I think that's where it comes through, is what did they choose to spend the time on? I'm glad they talked about some of these important issues. Like I said, the girls' sports, I think, was a good opportunity. He talked about the border, talked about the economy. But I think, I think people are a little sick of hearing about January 6th in every single debate.
I mean, it's like they're just, that's all they've got.
Yeah.
And it's not even what they're saying it is. Like, I think if we can get Trump in there, it's a big if. A lot of balls are still in the air here. But if we can get Trump in there, I am so looking forward to that exposure phase for the American people, that we can get into things like, oh, I don't know, maybe weather modification and what actually happened on January 6th and why they opened the borders and what happened to these 325,000 missing kids. So there's a lot on the line for these people. And they know that if Trump gets in there, I mean, it's game over for them. They are dead in the water. They're not going to be able to walk down the street. So we gotta vote like the country is on a cliff, because it really, really is. So
it certainly feels that way. And I can't believe, I mean, we're now less than 3 weeks away from Election Day. Can you believe it?
No, I can't. This year's just flown by. But early voting starts October 21st. And
yes.
Trump has urged people, because we saw all the shenanigans they did in Harris County, where I am, on Election Day, in 22, where it's like, oh, whoopsie, all the machines are broken on Election Day. They worked during early voting when I voted, but they're all down. We ran out of paper. So Trump is urging people now, like, let's beat them at their own game. Let's use mail-in votes if we have to. Let's ballot harvest legally. Let's chase ballots like they're doing, and let's vote early. So I urge people to go out and early vote, and just check your ballot very, very carefully before you insert it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, there's always, of course, reason for people to be concerned. Election security is obviously a major factor. But I would say that, everything that you talked about, plus the fact that, I don't think they've done enough, but states like Texas and some other states have in the last 4 years been cracking down on cleaning voter rolls, been trying to tamp down on mail ballot fraud, those sorts of things. And so I think when you look at the totality of that, I think those are things that play in our favor.
Well, Brandon, how can people follow you and find out what you got going on at Texas Scorecard?
Yeah, so we're at texasscorecard.com. You can sign up for our daily email, the Texas Minute there. We've got articles, podcasts. We've got a few documentaries out there. And then, of course, I'm on social media on X at Waltens.
Yes, y'all, seriously, Texas Scorecard is chef's kiss. It's fantastic. All right, Brandon, hope to see you soon. You are listening to Angela's Soapbox. I will be right back. Welcome back to Angela's Soapbox. All right, let's pick up with this illegal immigration stuff, because at this point, there's really no other way to spin it that these illegals are trying to come in to, number one, to vote, and number two, to completely change the fabric of this country. Now, we've got a situation where Senator Kneepads is being shivved by her party, because my mole is telling me, and I might have to say this for the fourth segment, but as I mentioned last week, I've got someone who's got, I don't know, people inside her campaign that are talking, and they are looking now. I'm like, are they going to get rid of her? Like, he's like, no, there's no time to do that. Like, ballots have already gone out. They're not going to be able to do that. But what they are going to do is completely just, basically make it so she's destroyed and can never show her face again. I'll get to that hopefully in the fourth segment. But I want to get to some of the things that they're doing to basically shiv her in the back and to also show us the plan of what they want to do. So the Bill Clinton, who is, I made a joke. I said, Bill Clinton, the super predator Bill Clinton. It's like not the kind of super predator that Hillary Clinton called black men, but a super predator with women. And we're going to get to the Hillary Clinton stuff. What was I going to get to? The super predator. I don't know. I'll come back to it. I will come back to it. But basically, Clinton's out on the campaign trail this week. He looks old. He looks like the crypt keeper. He doesn't have long for this world. I say to all these people, TikTok, man, like the people that went to Epstein Island, the people that traffic children, people that went to P. Diddy's parties, people that are deleting their Twitters and trying to erase the evidence. It's like, it's all going to come out. Like this time period that we're living in, quick little tangent here. This time period we're living in, I think, is showing more than any other time. I mean, obviously, I haven't been alive except in this time. But I mean, real karma in action, real godly justice in action. This idea that you can't run away from what you've done. And when you do bad things and when you do shady things, like it's going to catch up to you. So anyway, Bill Clinton's out there, kniving Kamala Harris in the back. And he first of all, he's like, you need to vote for Kamala for the children. Again, the guy that went to Epstein Island over 26 times, the people who have lost 325,000 children to probably sex traffickers and pedophiles, those people, you got to vote for Senator Kneepads for the children. He goes, yeah, this Laken Riley girl, this girl that was killed by an illegal alien, that probably wouldn't have happened if there was more vetting at the border. It's like, ouch, because the borders are Kamala Harris had control over the border. I mean, Joe Biden basically admitted that she's been his right-hand lady for every decision, and she's been right in there in the thick of it with him, doing everything that Joe Biden is doing. So this was a real slap in the face to her, and it's funny. Now, here's something else that's wild to me, and this is something the media isn't reporting on. I love going on Isaiah, don't get me wrong, but I'm always amazed at the things they call to talk to me about. Like, I was fully expecting to get a call about this Bill Clinton stabbing Kamala in the back, but I didn't. I got a call yesterday about mis and disinformation about FEMA, and it's like, and again, I love the production team there, think they're great, but the framing of it was like, wow, you guys really don't know what's going on. There's just all this misinformation that, FEMA is stopping the supplies from getting to people, and FEMA workers are being threatened. It isn't this terrible. It's like, y'all, I have so many receipts of FEMA blocking aid from getting to people. We've got people, elderly people, disabled people, like literally stuck in the mountains. They're not being rescued. They're not even being attempted to be rescued. Again, we've got eyewitness testimony of supplies being taken from people that have been donated by private citizens and then being given to illegal aliens. Like, these are eyewitness testimonies that they're all over X. And this is their big beef they have with X, obviously, because we've got actual people on the ground reporting what's going on. I'm old enough to remember when the media was actually wanting to do their job and go interview witnesses, as opposed to just go and just eat up whatever pablum the regime feeds to them like clapping seals. But this is where we are. So here's something else the media isn't covering. The Department of Justice, it has to do with illegal immigration. The Department of Justice is suing the Commonwealth of Virginia and Glenn Youngkin for removing illegal aliens from voting rolls. Yeah, they're like, oh, that's election interference. It's like, wait, what? How is it election interference to remove dead people and illegal aliens from voter rolls? Like, make it make sense. Y'all, here's the deal. They've got to use those people in order to create those ballots. That's why that's why they don't want any voter rolls purged. That's why they claim it's voter intimidation and voter suppression when they're just removing dead people and people that shouldn't be on the rolls in the first place. They're suing to stop that from happening. Okay? Now, again, I don't get called about that, to talk about that on Isaiah's show. Like, the things that I get called to talk about, again, kind of blow my mind, because anytime you go look on X, which thank you, Elon Musk, for buying X, buying Twitter, changing it to X, and making it a free speech platform for the most part, because we're able to see so much more than we did not before. And that's why they want to clamp down on it so much, because they're like, oh, this guy is a threat to our control. This guy is a threat to our narrative. So we have to shut him down. Now, in the last segment, I'm going to get to what my mole is saying. But real quick, let me get into the desperation of Senator Kneepads, because just a couple of days ago, she realizes that she's hemorrhaging support in the Black community, especially with Black men. Now, look, if 30%, in most polling now is showing about a 30% support for Trump with Black people, that is significantly higher than any Republican has ever gotten before. Now, we'll see if it bears out on Election Day, which, again, account for all the cheating they're going to do and whatever. But let's see if it bears fruit. But even if Trump got 10% in 2020, if he gets 15, 18, 20, forget 30%. If he gets 30% of Black support, Democrats cannot win, which, again, is why they're importing the third world into this country in order to take the places of those Black people that are now voting for Trump. And so Kamala Harris is such a desperate whore that she's put out this ridiculous pandering platform specifically targeted to Black men, okay? And this is how racist she is, okay? So first of all, she's like, we're gonna give all these forgivable loans to Black entrepreneurs if you want to start a business, and also, oh, and P.S., we're gonna legalize weed. Lady, I'm not even kidding you. Like, who in the Harris Waltz campaign was like, I know what we're going to do. Let's be completely racist and assume that all Black men smoke weed all day long and are like, that's their number one issue, to have weed legalized. Really? So here's her little strategy here. Provide $1 million loans that are $1 million loans that are fully forgivable, up to $20K for Black entrepreneurs and others to start a business. Black entrepreneurs and others. So they're trying to catch all that, so they're not going to get sued for a complete equal opportunity violation of the Civil Rights Act. Like, you can't just say, we're going to give this loan to a Black person. Like, that's so ridiculous. Support education training and mentorship programs that lead to good paying jobs for Black men, including pathways to become teachers. Protect cryptocurrency investments so Black men who make them know that their money is safe. I mean, this is so ridiculous. Launch a national health initiative focused on the illnesses that disproportionately impact Black men. And I say Black, and I'm hitting the word Black because, of course, they've capitalized the word Black. Legalize recreational marijuana and create opportunities for Black Americans to succeed in this new industry. Now, look, again, this is a little too late, okay? I've talked to a lot of Black people about this woman, this heifer. They're not buying what she's selling, all right? They're like, first of all, she's not Black. Second of all, why are you telling me to vote for someone just because they're Black? Like, it's not 2008. It's not hoop and change Obama anymore, all right? We see what the Democrats are all about. The more that Black people flee the Democrat plantation, again, look for them to want to just completely open the borders even more, because they cannot lose that voting block of people. Otherwise, the Democrat Party ceases to exist. So this is how much they are floundering. This is how much they are just cratering with support of traditional Democrat constituencies. And we got 3 weeks to go, ladies and gentlemen. And when we get in the last segment, I'm going to talk to you about what my mole is up to and anything else I can cram into the last few minutes. You're listening to Angela's Soapbox. I will be right back. Okay, welcome back to Angela's Soapbox. All right, we're going to have kind of a shorter segment here, but I wanted to, let's see, what do I want to do here? Okay, so I told y'all last week that I've got someone that's talking to people on the inside of Senator Kneepads' campaign, right? He is he's a security guy. He has done a lot of law enforcement stuff, a lot of private security. He's basically read between the lines, how I'm getting this information. So essentially, Kneepads and her team are freaking out because there's leaks everywhere. And this is what he said a couple of days ago, because I was like, what's the latest? He was like, my timeline is filled today with what I've been saying. So this is the thing. He was telling me this stuff, and he's like, listen, they're going to basically, if they can't get her across the finish line because their internal polls are terrible, and that's why she's trying to pander to black men and things like that. Her internal polls are really, really bad. And this is why she's saying she's the underdog, even though she's not. This is how you know she knows she's going to lose. She's not even campaigning like she's the underdog. She's just like, whatever, I know I'm going to lose this race. I can say I was the first female vice president and the first, woman of color, Democrat presidential nominee, yada, 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 yada. That's what she's going to try and dine out on. But the mole is saying that everyone hates her so much because she's such a horrible person. She's a drunk. She treats people like crap, all the things that we know. And that the tension, and this came out, and he said this to me last week. He was like, tensions between Harris and Waltz are at a fever pitch. Biden and Harris are at a fever pitch. And look for Waltz now to basically side with Joe. And sure enough, that's what we've been seeing this week. The reports from Axios saying that, yeah, the Biden-Harris teams are at war with each other. There's a lot of tension. Biden is pissed at how they did him so dirty, which I think is completely a normal human reaction. I hate Joe Biden. I think he's a total criminal and a dirtbag. But also, he got pushed out by his own party. And so, of course, he's going to be pissed off. And, of course, he's going to take it out on the woman that basically did this to him. He should be taking it out on Obama and Clinton and all those people, which maybe this is his way of getting revenge, because he's scheduling events when she's doing events. He's basically saying, yeah, she was like my right-hand lady in everything we've done. All this planned destruction of America, she was right there with me for it. So anyway, he said this last week, that the infighting with him was really, really bad. Now, so this is what he said. Civil war in the DNC, it's turning physical now. I'm not sure what that means. 4 more weeks, it's going to be embarrassing. And this was last week when he said this. I'm hearing that Obama has made the call. So I don't know what that means exactly, except this is what he continued. Polls will start showing Kamala down. I asked the RCP latest, and they said, watch first, then the others. Opinions vary on why, but it is utter chaos. One says it's just basically telling the polls to go ahead and start showing her losing. Because again, these polls are manipulated. They're oversampling Democrats, all the things we know that they're doing. They always lean these polls to the left. And if you look at Rasmussen and Morning Consult, Atlas, all these, Morning Consult sucks, but Atlas, Rasmussen, even New York Times, Siena, they're all showing, it's a Trump +1 or Harris +1. Well, in 2016, it was like Hillary Clinton, she, 93% chance that she was going to win the election. She was up by 7 points, and Trump ended up winning. And obviously in 2020, they had Joe Biden up 7 points, and they had to shut everything down at 10:30 at night to make sure that they were able to feed in those ballots and, flip, make sure the algorithms were taking care of the vote, and make sure that Trump didn't win this thing, all the things that we saw in 2020. So if they were showing Clinton up by 6.7 or so, and Trump ends up winning, and then they're showing Biden up by 7, and then they had to basically shut everything down in order to make that true, where he only won by about 4 points, which, come on, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. I'm sorry. I cannot wait. I cannot wait for the military tribunals, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot wait until they start opening the books on the 2020 election, and they open the books on weather manipulation, and they open the books on the border, and they open the books on where all the missing kids are, and they start doing congressional investigations and bring in the receipts and January 6th and everything else for the American people to see just what this government has been up to. But anyway, I digress. So let me get back to what my mole is saying. It's utter chaos within the Kamala Harris campaign. One says it's to send her a message. Basically, they're going to start these polls. They're going to start showing her down, or it's going to be neck and neck, which is what we're seeing. Another says she has alienated everybody, and they just won't cover for her anymore. I have a hard time believing they'll concede to Trump. God knows only knows what's going to go on. And he said this the other day. Waltz is now on Team Joe, and the goal is not only for Kamala to lose, but to do it so badly she never considers raising her head, pun intended, again. That's their plan. Don't know what the DNC is going to do about all this. Look for Tim to keep saying the quiet part out loud. She can't run for her policies when he says them. And then I asked, and then the other day with this Clinton thing, which anyone who knows anything about politics knows that Bill Clinton is as slick as they come. Okay, he might be an old crypt keeper looking dude right now that, Gen Z doesn't recognize when he goes into McDonald's because he loved going in McDonald's. Oh, Bill Clinton's just like me. He likes McDonald's. And then he goes into a McDonald's the other day and people were like, who is this guy? And they thought he was Joe Biden. It was so funny. Anyway, so the Clinton gaffe, it wasn't a gaffe, okay? Clinton did that on purpose. Clinton, and I knew it. I was like, here go hell come, okay? Because here comes the knifing of Kamala Harris. Because Bill Clinton saying, Laken Riley probably would have been alive if these people had been vetted properly. Like, duh, obviously. So basically, they're saying that this is all intentional. They the second part that he gleaned of the plan was to saddle Trump with either a civil or a world war or both. Now, guys, I'm gonna have to leave it there because they can't get rid of her. But I'm gonna keep you updated on what my mole is saying. I've got to end the show now, unfortunately, but I will be back next week. And until next time, everybody, you keep kicking ass and taking names, and we'll keep doing it together, saving this country 1 second at a time. Peace.